Good evening and welcome to Black Hole Radio Wisdom Walk and my YouTube Wisdom Walk to Self Mastery live stream here on Sunday, August the 11th. I am Jojopahmaria Nsoroma. And if you haven't listened in before, you know that for these first couple of minutes, I am having my theme song, Nicolela by Stevie Wonder, playing over my radio broadcast, internet radio broadcast. And so I get to just talk to you YouTubers directly for a couple of minutes as that's playing out. Haven't figured out yet how to get permission to have it on my YouTube yet. I think I have to have more subscribers and I don't know. Well, I know all the rules they have. So anyway, I might have to pay some money and that I definitely have to wait for, but I so want you to be able to hear this lovely song that I love, and it will definitely happen. You know what I should do is I really should post it, because there's stuff on YouTube, but I should post the video of it, and just so that you can hear it and I can refer to you to it. Anyway, I am delighted to be live streaming tonight. The topic I'm going to talk about tonight is really powerful and important. And I was preparing this afternoon for it. And, I make out my notes ahead of time and just write down some thoughts or frame it in how I want to talk to it, because I only have an hour. Really, it's about 20 minutes when I do the series, the spill, I call it. Of the topic. But I got this really clear message from my spirit guides. You need to do an infomercial about this video tonight. And I was like, but I already posted it on Facebook and stuff. And like, why would I? That's overkill. And they were like, you need to do an infomercial. So I did this infomercial and just gave some more specifics about what I'm going to be talking about. And I don't know. I was just supposed to do it. So I let go. It was like 2 minutes and I just let go of trying to figure out why I needed to do that. But I don't know. Maybe it's something I'm supposed to do every week from now on, just as a reminder to people a couple of hours before the live stream. Anyway, we will definitely see. So my theme song is almost done. And then I'll start the show officially. I don't know if you can see, but right here behind me is my book, The Wisdom Walk to Self Mastery. I realize I need to do a lot more reminders to people that it exists. And so here it is in bigger form. This is my first book. It is the first in a series of what I'm writing, initially designed for men who were in my Wisdom Walk program, men who had been involved in the criminal justice system. And from the feedback I'm getting, it is of great service to people who haven't been through that experience as well. So here we go. Good evening and welcome to Wisdom Walk here on Black Hole Radio and my YouTube live stream at Wisdom Walk to Self Mastery. I am Jojopahmaria Nsoroma. And this August is the second and the final nature month in this mineral year that we are having, which is designed for clarity, confidence, and courage. This August brings heartful changes to that support of being your authentic self. So important in this day and age. So this month, my theme is about changing up your story, meaning choosing to remove your personal blocks to happy endings and fulfillment in life. So through 4 radio broadcasts and live streams, I'll be providing wisdom and insights on changing up from being a victim to being a victor, from addiction to freedom, from controlling to flowing, and from knowing it all to knowing nothing. Now, for those of you who may be listening in for the first time, let me give you a brief overview of the program you may be watching in for the first time. Wisdom Walk is a personal development resource for your mind, body, and soul. My ministry is any pain that is not transformed will be transferred. So, the essential goal of my shows is to support you listening or watching in learning how to recognize and release any and all pain that may be blocking your happy endings in life, that fulfillment in life. So every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, I will be broadcasting live and also, on the radio as well as here on my YouTube, unless I am on hiatus or the unexpected occurs. I really do live in an earthquake zone. And if for some reason you can't access the internet or listen or watch, you can always listen to this live broadcast at this phone number. It's area code 563-999-3089. Again, that's 563-999-3089. Now, because my hour is mostly a spill of information, I don't usually create time to have discussion with the audience. You can ask questions or share comments on my website, which is www.wisdomwalktoselfmastery.com, or leave a comment here on my YouTube channel after the recommendations that YouTube gives you. If you scroll all the way down, you'll come to the comments section and you can leave me some comments or ask some questions there. I will be checking. The other thing I do want you to know is that I realize that what I'm doing every week is teaching, and I am a teacher. And so what I'm giving you is, as much as I can within a time frame that I have on these particular subjects, all regarding self-mastery, growing into becoming the best version of yourself. But I realize that there may be people out there that would be interested in actually taking a class with me online. So just know that I am in the process of developing an online opportunity for those who, after they hear the week topic, say, I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. I'd like to go a little more deeper into that. I'd like to really ask her some questions and have her respond back to me. So just to let you know, I will be working on that. Now, before I go much further, as I do every week here, I like to open up my show in a very spiritual way by honoring the ancestors. The ancestors are those who walk this earth plane but don't anymore, but they are the sentient beings that have had the experience of living in the three-dimensional reality, of experiencing the opposites, black, white, up, down, in, out, hot, cold. And so they are wonderful guides for us who are still here in this dimension on this journey, because they've learned what they need to learn. They moved on, but they're always willing to help. There's a movie called Coco that Disney or Pixar put out. If you get a chance to see it, if you want to understand about ancestors, because they do a great job when they go into the land of the ancestors. And in one marvelous scene, they show this ancestor who is just fading to dust. And the reason is because none of the people that he left behind are engaging with him. So there's no work for him to do. It's just like going on. And they're all like, oh, we're going to miss you. It's like, but, we need to employ our ancestors. We need to have them working. We need them to be healthy and strong and viral in their land, because we are calling on them and asking for help. And so that's what I'm doing basically here every night, and asking you to join in to invoke our ancestors to help us in ways that sometimes we can't even imagine. Now, as most people know, last week we had some horrible experiences of gun violence here in the United States. Over the last 2 years, it's just been ridiculous in terms of people transferring their pain in such a horrible, horrible way. And these things, when you've got like 50 people that get killed at an event, that's probably about 5,000 people who are going to be affected by that because of how people are connected and related. And of course, all of us bearing witness to this kind of horror that may not know the persons that got killed or live in the same city, you know, we're affected too. We are affected too. Vicarious trauma is real. And so this week, I wanted to again call on all of our ancestors and ask them to come and really help us move to some real solutions, some real ways in which we can address this kind of violence in this country. The United States, again, really is one of the most technologically advanced cultures on the planet. We have access to so many conveniences, to so much education and information. Why is this happening? And I believe it's because we're not taking care of the things that you also have to be taking care of, even when you're doing math and science. And that basically is nurturing the children and really honoring what it is that children need in order to grow and be healthy and happy. And intervening when we know, especially, that there's a child that is not being loved, is not being cared for. There is a report that was done by the Centers for Disease Control. It was published in the LA Times. I have not read it yet, but I heard about this through a third party that talked about they did profiling of the shooters of the last 2 years, and they wonderfully looked at their childhoods. And no surprise to me, being a human services professional, they spotted the fact that, all of these shooters had what we call adverse childhood experiences. And studies have been done about this, that things that happen to people in childhood can grow into these horrible things as adults, which a part of that is going to jail, going into crime, being violent, etc. So we know this information, but we need to act on it. And we really do need help from some higher wisdom, higher guidance in order to do that, because this really means we got to change up some systems, the education system. We've got to change up the work system. Sometimes it's about parents not being able to be available for their children, whatever, but we need to step into that. So join me now, if you will, in thinking about an ancestor of yours who was able to nurture children. And we're going to call in all of the ancestors as well for this, but I do want you to focus on who was that knew how to really nurture children. And a couple of them in my family, especially my mother and my grandmother, and that's Dolores and Lillian. So here we go. Ancestors, 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 I'm calling out to you and I'm thanking you. I'm thanking you for listening and for being present. And to Creator, Mother, Father, God, Source, all the one, all that is, thank you, thank you, thank you for creating this level of communication, this level of emissary between you and the ancestors, for we know through their connection that they will guide us in the right directions. They will point us in the right directions. They will help us to access our purpose and our right thinking to take on these incredibly complex and difficult challenges in human growth and development that we are faced with in this 21st century. And so, ancestors, thank you, thank you, thank you for your love. Thank you for your willingness to be of service. And please hear our cry as we're calling out to you, to all of you. Help us, help us, help us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Creator, I ask and thank you for the blessing of the ancestors in the name of all that is holy. I say amen, ashe, ahoasa, shinga bismillah, and so it is. Ashe, ashe. Thank you, thank you. I see my good buddy from London, Ms. Magella Green, is on the line. Hey, Magella! Sending you lots of love and light from Santa Monica over to London. Now, I want to share with you quickly some wisdom from the elemental wheel that I wisdom keep, the Dagra medicine wheel, to give you some understanding of the energetics of this week coming up. And then I'm going to also add on some astrological, astronomical information, continuing from what I did last week, because this energy is really, really huge. I know I've been feeling it. It's just amazing. So, starting off with the elemental wisdom this week and starting on Tuesday, because Tuesday was the first day of January 2019. So it begins what I call the elemental week. And so this Tuesday will be the 13th, and that translates into a nature week. And we are in a nature month. And nature is all about some good change, some good things changing up. Yeah. So here's the opportunities. It's primarily about being flexible because of the change. Trust the process. Surrender your attachment to your plan. When we make up what we think is the best way for our dreams to come true, we are sure to be disappointed. Trust that the universe, with its unknowable ability to make things happen in the right way and at the right time, is more powerful than your brain or that of any other human. Want it to be right more than just wanting it. That is so true. Let go of trying to figure it all out. Do what is right in front of you to do at the present time, and know that more will be revealed. Connect with the beauty, magic, and trickster energy of the nature element, whether that is in the form of plants, trees, flowers, animals, or humans, to help you accept the greater order and direction you are being asked to experience. So, flexibility, flexibility. Now, here are distractions that you want to be on the outlook for with that, because always, always, when we're being asked to do one thing, something else going to come along and try to move us in the opposite direction. That's just how the universe works. Okay, they call it dark matter. So here are the distractions: being arrogant and or stubborn. Yeah, like knowing it all. That's like knowing it all. Another one, attempting to change a no into a yes. Oh my God, that is so, so enticing. Like, you get the no and you're like, but wait a minute, I shouldn't be having this. I got to get to my yeah. No, let it go, because the only way your yes can show up is by accepting the no. Yeah. And just keep moving forward. Perceiving things as win lose. Yes, that will get you in trouble. It's only about learning. It's only about learning. Despairing and trying to go back to the place you know best, also known as squeezing back through the hole. Like, oh, I'm a little too scared to keep going forward. I think I'll go back to what I know. Of course, it's never usually conscious. It's usually when you're trying to squeeze back through the hole and you're really having problems and complications that you realize, oh, I'm not moving forward. I need to move forward. And then last but not least, beating yourself up for situations and or outcomes that you have no control over. Yeah, like it's very humbling, very humbling. So next Tuesday, the 20th, we'll begin an Earth Week, and I'll tell you all about that in the next broadcast. Now, jumping into the astrology information. Astro Butterfly, an astrologer that I like, had said that the first half of the month we get a well-deserved break. And it's kind of been that. It's kind of been like a little smoothing out, because July was off the chain, lots of rumblings and stuff going on, lots of friction. And it has seemed like we've been getting uplifted. Things have moved out. I have lots of friends in Wisconsin. They finally had some really good weather. Things are just smoothing out. And then she says, in the second half of the month, the energy slowly shifts from Leo to Virgo, which indicates that there's going to be a lot of productivity, a lot of action happening. And it'll be like hard work that's fun to do. So that's always exciting to hear. Especially this is a time when people are going back to school or going to college for the first time. So it's challenging, but it'll be fun. Lena Stevens, another wonderful astrologer, she's also a shaman. She talked about her theme for the month of August as discovery. It's a time for us to really take on discovering some new desires, to face some new truths, to make some mature personal choices, to set some good boundaries, to take risk on a relationship or project, expand our dreams, and reset our intentions. But this whole thing about discovering, so again, that implies that having to let go, to be flexible and to be able to change. Now, the biggest energy that we're dealing with until tomorrow midnight is the Lion's Gate. And I did do a video about that, so I'm not going to go in that too much right now, but there will be a video on my YouTube channel, Wisdom Walk to Self Mastery, that you can glance at and listen to. It's very short, but it gives you at least an overview about this energy, what it does, and what it's doing. I think the biggest thing to remember is that, as a human species, we have to grow and evolve. We really have to grow and evolve. And so that energy does come in. And if you're sensitive and empathetic, you're going to be feeling it. So if you've been off a little this week, or you felt challenged, or you had some health issues that came up it seems like out of the blue, just know that it's probably related to this ascension energy, they call it, but this energetic from this portal that opened up, and we're getting in this cosmic flow of growing our consciousness. And so it does really have a physical impact on all of us. Now, this Thursday, we're going to have a full moon in the sign of Aquarius. And Barbara Goldsmith, the other astrologer I really like, she says that the big words for this full moon energy are action, passion, and staying power, because of Aquarius, the full moon being Aquarius. Not only does a full moon come to illuminate the truth, but it also puts things into perspective. And so she's focusing on the fact that this full moon is going to give us the strength to move through challenges so that we don't give up, that we're going to access new solutions to some challenges, especially some long-term challenges. She emphasized that. And that we'll be thinking outside the box, that there'll be energy to support that, like not maintaining the status quo, but actually going a different route in order to get to a new solution. That famous quote about what insanity is doing what you've always done and expecting the same result. So if things are going to shift, things are going to change, we've got to do it differently. So there you have it. Some good elemental and astrological information kind of help you out for this week. Oh, one more thing I almost forgot. On tomorrow, on Monday, we actually come to the total completion of the Mercury retrograde season that we've just passed out of. So we want one more retrograde by the end of the year, but it's like it's done. And so there should be this, you'll be noticing that, again, things around communication, transportation, really, really, really will be smoothing out for you. Also, tomorrow, Jupiter goes direct. Jupiter has been retrograde since April. The big thing about Jupiter, it's in the sign, it's home sign of Sagittarius, and it'll be there for a number of years. And so things are really expanding in that area that Sagittarius lords over, which happens to be a lot about our purpose in life. Yeah. So purpose is getting an expansion. And so again, as it goes direct tomorrow, you'll be noticing or experiencing some expansion related to your purpose. Yeah. Yeah. And in a good way, in a very good way. Ashe. So tonight I am going to continue my spill about changing up your story, getting to your authentic self, getting to the best version of yourself, also called self-mastery. I'm going to, what's his name? Oh my God, I just have to take a moment. It's Andrea, my dear friend from North Carolina that supported me learning how to be a shaman. Hi, Andrea. Love you, sister. um, so tonight I'm going to be continuing to talk about this, and I want to be able to give you a quick, brief summation about what I talked about before. So I'll do that last week. And then I'm going to focus on moving from addiction to freedom. And I'm going to be talking not just the external experience of addiction, but I'm going to talk about what it's rooted in internally. So I'm going to give you a shamanic perspective on that. And when I'm talking about freedom, I'm also talking about emotional freedom, because if we're emotionally free, what shows up in our life is just amazing, absolutely amazing. And then, of course, I'll give you a personal challenge. Now, I'm really kind of feeling my oats because I'm now a published author. See the little book over there? Um, so I actually was looking for a quote about what I was going to be talking about tonight, but I couldn't find just the right one. So I said, but you have a quote. You quote all the time. What is your problem? And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm writing this for my next book. So I borrowed this from my next book that I'm working on, and I thought this was very apropos for what we're talking about, what I'm going to be talking about tonight. So here's a quote: "The emotional pain created by an addictive behavior will always be greater than the emotional pain you are attempting to sedate. And this cosmic law is the key to opening the door to your journey to emotional freedom." Yeah, yeah. Really, really so much truth. I know from personal experience. Yeah. So here's what I talked about last week: changing up your story. I talked about how the fact that we all have a story of negativity, of suffering, whether it is physical or emotional, psychological, it doesn't matter. Because that story, that pain story, it robs us of having fulfillment in life or a happy ending in life. That story becomes a belief system, and a belief system rules our judgment. It rules our perception. It rules our decision making. It rules who and what we attract into our lives. Okay. So if my story is that I've suffered, I'm broken forever, I never can have, I never will be, I'll never get to my joy and happiness, then that will be the experience of my life. Okay. So the story and your experience of life are conjoined, they're conjoined. And when we decide, when we choose as adults to go after things that we believe are really going to make us happy and bring us joy, we've got to change up our story. We've got to change up our story. A quick example of why: there are people who win the lotto. They win $5 million. They win $1 billion, whatever. And there are too many stories of people who have won these incredible, huge amounts of money and lost it. Yeah, like gone. And why is that? Because you think, man, if I got $5 million, ain't no way I was going to lose that. If I got $1 billion, no way I'm going to lose that. Well, if your story is still, there's something wrong with me, I'm not enough, I have to suffer in life, I don't care how much money you have, that's going to be your story. That's going to be your story. So the point I'm making is money can't buy your way out of your story. Okay. And it's not an intellectual exercise. Yeah. Because pain likes to stay in a place that we call the unconscious. Yeah. And to get at that, you have to take on making a commitment and doing your inner work so that you can get to experience the fruits of your labor in an external manner. So I gave the example to inspire you in regards to the fact that it doesn't matter what your story began as. It doesn't matter how you were born or what horrible parents you had or what a horrible elementary school you went to or that you got bullied, that you lost a piece of your body when you were young, whatever. Um, it doesn't matter because you really can change things up. That's how the universe is made to work. It is never designed to keep you imprisoned in your story. We do that to ourselves by choosing not to change it up. And so I gave this example of Helen Keller because it's just so wonderful. She becomes an inspiring, recognized public speaker and advocate despite the loss of sight and hearing at the age of 2. And she was international. She did an international trip at the age of 66. She achieved all these things. Why? Because she decided to change up her story. It's really that simple, but also that challenging because, changing up your story doesn't happen overnight. You have to work at it. You have to work at it. But Helen even won an Oscar. Okay? She won an Oscar for this documentary about her life. I mean, that's how clear she was. I'm changing this up. I'm changing this up. So she lived on purpose. She was totally fulfilled, and she died at the age of 91. She lived to 91. And she was born in 1880, right? So she's an amazing, amazing human being. So, with that kind of inspiration, we know that we really can change things up. And I gave you 6 important steps that can be taken to shift from being a victim to life to being a victor in your life. And the first one is that you wake up, you listen to your heart and soul, and you realize that something's not right, but it's supposed to be right. In other words, you get that feeling that, wait a minute, this is not okay. Second, you say no to remaining a victim and you ask and thank your greater order and direction for the people, places, and things that will enable you to experience yourself as a victor. Okay. Third, you choose to stop identifying with your story of pain and suffering because it doesn't serve you. So in other words, you really get to that point where, it's like if you got an old pair of pants or an old shirt or an old coat even that at one point you loved. I mean, you loved it. That's why it's gotten old and raggedy. You loved it and you'd wear it even when it's old and raggedy. But then one day you put it on and you're like, this is old and raggedy. This really ain't working, and you're like, okay, I got to go shopping and get myself something else. It's that kind of a thing. You get the story becomes old and raggedy. You get bored with it. You're like, I'm so tired of this, I remember that. I remember being bored with my story of suffering. Next, you choose to find the purpose in misfortune, trouble, pain, because you're willing to believe that you were born on purpose, that you matter, and that you are not disposable. And you want your life to be right. So in other words, you shift your perception from being a victim to, oh, how is what I have gone through enabled me to be fulfilled in life, to be on purpose? You start to get the treasure in the trouble, in the trauma. Number 5, you choose to say yes and receive all the help you need to become right with yourself and your world. So that means you have to be vulnerable, right? You have to be open to receiving. Yeah. And 6, when the pain tries to reclaim your soul, as it will, you tell it that it was just an obligatory event to get you to your true story or something to that effect. Sometimes I say, you know what, that may be true, but I'm open to learning something new. And then I move forward with it. The personal challenge I threw out last week was, where in your life do you experience victim consciousness the most? Home, work, intimate relationships, and to ask yourself why. Where are you experiencing victor consciousness the most? And ask yourself why. And then what is one thing you can do today to begin shifting the victim experiences into victor experiences? Yes. And I'll say this now and I will repeat it again. I always write out the personal challenge and put it in the box below this video. And there's a little arrow, for those of you that may not know, there's a little arrow to the right of the title of the video, a little gray arrow. And if you click on that, it does a drop down list and you'll get more of the information that I posted. For those of you listening on the radio, you can go to my Facebook page, Wisdom Walk Radio, and you don't have to belong to Facebook to access that page because it's a Facebook page. So Wisdom Walk Radio, and I usually post the personal challenge there as well. I think I might have missed last week. I apologize, but I promise to do it this week. So now that we got laid some foundation, some work about changing up your life, that you can do it. It's important to do, process to do, and that you don't have to stay a victim. If you started out that way, you can become a victor. Let's look at another negative aspect of story, and that is about addiction. And so I want to talk about moving from addiction to freedom. So here's the most common way that we think about addiction. This comes from the American Society of Addiction Medicine. And they say addiction is a primary chronic disease of brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. Meaning circuitry of your brain. Dysfunction in these circuits leads to characteristic biological, psychological, social, and spiritual manifestations. This is reflected in an individual pathologically pursuing reward and or relief by substance use and other behaviors. So a very clinical definition, explanation. I think the important things in here is that actually talking about there is a physiological event that is going on when someone has an addiction, and it has to do with what's going on with your brain. It's a physiological thing. They're not making up this loss of control. The other thing important in this definition is this notion of pursuing reward, trying to get something that feels good, right? To get reward, motivated by getting a reward. Unfortunately, the reward is kind of pathological, meaning that it has bad consequences. So a pathological reward is a reward that will eventually hurt you, okay? Even though in the beginning or at first it may feel good, but then it turns into something bad. All of this translates into loss of self-control, abdication from personal sovereignty. You're no longer in charge of yourself. Opposite of self-mastery. Someone who is doing addictive behavior, engaging in addictive behavior, is not mastering themselves. In other words, they've given themselves over. They've sold their soul to the devil, is a way to think of it as well. Another way to think about addiction is when you can stop on your own, you choose not to. When you want to stop, you can't without help and support. Yeah, it's really, 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 really crazy. And so that selling the soul to the devil piece too about addiction is important, because it's the kind of thing where the more you do it, the more you engage with that behavior. And I'm talking, it can be drug abuse, can be a sexual addiction, could be addiction to video games, could be addiction to food, could be an addiction to shopping. Like I'll talk to you about my experience with that in a minute. But it's this thing that the more you do it, the more you engage, the more of your soul is taken away. And that's a shamanic perspective. It's like you find it harder and harder to say no, harder and harder to actually stop yourself. It's because pieces of your soul are being fragmented. And that's the pathology of addiction. And in shamanic terms, we talk about, giving yourself over to the hungry ghost inside of you, that one that wants to eat off of you, eat off of your soul. So what I want to talk about tonight is what everybody who does addiction counseling knows and does, which is it's not just a matter of helping people get into a routine of finding an alternative to what they've been doing to hurt themselves, but doing things that are positive, that are loving, like somebody giving up alcohol. If you give up the alcohol, there's something else you've got to be doing to calm yourself, to calm your nerves. So whether it's learning how to meditate, getting into yoga, for some people they leave drinking, but they do smoking. And then they are working on getting out of the smoking by doing something else, and there's stages to letting go of addiction. Some people actually need a drug. People who are heroin addicted or crack cocaine addicted to rehab, they actually have to have another drug. It's one that's not as harmful, but it's a stage that they have to go through in order to really get through the addiction. Um, and so that's the 3D stuff that goes on. That's what happens in 3D. But like I said, all addiction counselors know that all of that physical 3D behavior, the things that you can see with your eyes and all your four other senses, that all of that is emanating from something inside of you. That's why to take on rehab without also taking on counseling, some good therapy, it's a waste of time and energy, because when the relapse time happens, it's just really, really, really bad. So, this notion of the inner landscape as an area that has to be addressed in order to overcome an addiction and get to freedom, it's really nothing new. But in shamanic terms, we know that these physical things are always going to be rooted in something within the inner landscape, within your inner scape. This is that invisible, unconscious realm of your psyche, called the unconscious, called the shadow, whatever. And addictive behavior is a deep, dark aspect of your pain body. The pain body being all of that unprocessed pain that you experienced from birth, on, especially in childhood, because as a child, it's hard to process pain without an adult helping you. And so if you don't have that support, you're just still sitting on that pain, and it will come out in very, very ugly ways. The other piece with your pain body is the ancestral wounds. We now know through the science of epigenetics and the DNA studies that you actually can inherit belief systems. Yeah, you can inherit the pain story from your ancestors. You know, there's a woman named Joy DeGruy that wrote this wonderful book, and it talks about what she calls post-traumatic slave syndrome among Black people or anyone who has gone through it's of years in that kind of a system. Um, and so this stuff is real and it's embedded in us, and it will fight to stay alive in you. It really will. And causing you to have an addiction is one of the things that it will do. And again, this is why any successful rehabilitation must include not just stopping a behavior or giving an alternative to a behavior, but also exploring what needs to be healed from the inside out. Now, types of internal addiction that I'm talking about would be any emotional pain that hasn't been addressed, has the opportunity to show up as a drug addiction, a sexual addiction, a video game addiction, etc., a food addiction. Um, you can be really, really addicted to emotional pain. I know people that are. It's like it just, even when things get good and things are good in their life, everything's good, they're gonna find something to not be okay because they're just addicted to. I got to be in pain. They're addicted to trauma drama. I know people like that. Again, addiction to victimhood, to being a victim. Yeah, like really. So no matter how much work you do with them, and no matter how much they say, yeah, I don't want to be a victim, I don't want to be a victim. Here it comes one more time, one more decision that is totally them being a victim. Can be you can be addicted to being a poor me. You can be addicted to being right. Yeah, there are people that like always got to be right. Have you got friends like that? Somebody you got a parent like that? Like seriously though, it really is an addiction. It's like I got to be right. And then there are people addicted to I got to be wrong. They can never be right. You can be addicted to being in trouble, especially if that's what happened to you in childhood and that's how you got attention. Why would I let that go if it brings me attention and that's what I really want? I guess trouble is the way to do it. Can be addicted to failing, can be addicted to winning. I got to win at all costs. We all know people like that. Or we ourselves may have been like that. Having attention, I want to stress that again. You can very much be addicted to that. I remember in an interview, Michael Jackson said that he only felt alive when he was on stage. Yeah, yeah, that's deep. You can be addicted to there's something wrong with me. And of course, you can be addicted to perfection. Like I can't go out without my makeup if you're a woman or as a man. I can't go out unless I'm really suited up and got on my $200 shoes or whatever. All of that. All of those can be addictive behaviors, meaning that we are so entrapped in them. They're behaviors that even when we don't want to do them, we still do them. So let me quickly share with you about my shopping addiction. I was working for a organization, a human services organization at a national level, and I used the company credit card to buy some furniture. Now, I knew that was wrong. Come on, I've been in the business for years. You don't do that. I knew it was wrong. I knew that they would probably even be able to see the purchase because somebody looks over those things to make sure that people aren't taking advantage of the company, right? I did it anyway. Did it anyway. I just convinced myself that I needed to do it. But that's how crazy I was at the time. Thank goodness they had a very good HR person and she had a wonderful conversation with me and she referred me to a debt management counselor who was also very wonderful. And this helped me address that 3D behavior that I can buy anything anytime whenever I wanted to without suffering consequences or whatever was going on for me. Yeah, I mean, it really was. I mean, I'd go into Target or Walmart. Really, Target was my favorite. I'd go into Target and I just needed like one thing that was going to cost maybe $5. I'd come out 2 hours later and I would have spent like $100 and only had another $100 left in my bank account to pay my gas bill, stuff like that. And I would never take it back because it was like, it was working for me, right? It was like, oh, I need this. I got to have this and stuff I did not need. Did not need. Needed to pay my bills. That's what I needed to do. I can laugh about this now, but at the time, it's very serious. And I know there are other people out there that may be challenged by that. So I don't mean to laugh in terms of it because it is a very serious thing. But I'm laughing now because I can see and understand why I did that. Because in addition to the debt management counselor that, helped me make out a budget, and I knew how much I had to pay to this debtor and this and that and get my stuff in order and get rid of my credit cards, I also went into therapy because I knew I had to discover what was motivating me. As intelligent as I was, why would I put my career on the line to buy some furniture, bedroom furniture? Really? I had to find out what was going on because it wasn't jiving. So this is when I got to the point where I knew like something is out of balance. And so I went into therapy, and what I uncovered was that I had this belief going on that I was not enough. Yeah, I was not enough. And having discovered that, I began to take on practices, disciplines, learnings. I read things, being a shamanic healer. I always use that medicine for myself first before I use it for anybody else. And using that also helped me to grow my consciousness. And I can tell you, I have to work on this daily. I have to work on it daily that I am enough. I will get tempted by Going past the Target, they got that big red sign with that ball in the middle. It's like what an alcoholic would be if they, with alcohol. So the big red sign, that's my danger sign. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. But I am at a point, I'm healthy enough now that I can go into a Target, I can go into a Walmart, knowing what it is that I need to buy, spend time looking around at all the little fun things and all the little gadgets or whatever, and only buy what it is that I really need to buy. No longer need to put my financial health into disease over my addiction and my inner addiction to I'm not enough. Yeah, because if you believe you're not enough, then nothing is going to be enough, and you'll always be trying to buy more and more and more and more. So, I want to share with you something that I did highlight in my book. It's a part of the Wisdom Walk process, and it's the 5 keys to self mastery. And I offer them up just to give you an idea of a process, a lifelong process, really, that we can go through to keep ourselves in a higher consciousness about addictive behaviors in all their forms so that we can work on them and get ourselves healthy enough to not be ruled by our devils, not be ruled by our demons, but to really be in the truth of who we are. So I'm just going to go through this quickly. And I've talked about this before, but I'm going to just share it again. So, these 5 keys. The first one is meditation, and I'm going to add to that meditation for making and setting an intention. And meditation is about going into that inner landscape. It's getting still and allowing yourself to connect to your soul. Yeah. And it can be done in a very formalized way, or it can be done in a simple way with going online, YouTube, going to Yellow Brick Cinema, playing one of their 8-hour long, meditation videos, and just letting yourself just be in that music and in that energy, and setting your intention about, I am ready to get to my emotional freedom. Because when you're addicted, your emotions are not free. Your emotions are all bound up. They are all enslaved to that addictive behavior. So you're high, you're low, you're in, you're out, you're anxious, you're scared, you're happy for no reason, and you want stuff for no reason, you're all over the place. So emotional freedom is where you actually are in control of your emotions. You get to decide how you're feeling, how you respond to how you're feeling. It's not about what somebody else is doing or not doing. And you like yourself, you feel good about yourself. You can trust yourself. So emotional freedom is very, very important. So meditation to set that intention, I want to be emotionally free. Second is contemplation. And this is the key to your pain body, because you have to go and ask those hard questions. Like I had to ask that question, like, why am I putting my career on the line? Why am I putting it in jeopardy? That's what I went into therapy for. Like, I got to understand this. I got to know what is going on. Am I really just insane? What's going on? And so you have to ask those hard questions to get at more of what is going on, to have you behave in the way that you're behaving, that out of control behavior. Affirmation is the third step. And affirmation, in the book, I talk about the ritual process, doing a personal ritual. But it really is about making a faith gesture. It's a gesture that you make to your God, to the universe, to say, I am willing to learn how to have my emotional freedom. Yeah. And after affirmation, always after you do an affirmation, you are going to have a revelation. Something is going to be opened up to you to support you to have that intention come true. Revelations also get you to the hidden truths. Like my revelation was about, I really believe that I'm not enough. Once I had that revelation, Now I can really work to make sure I become enough, that I learn what enough is for me, and that I am enough, and to, heal whatever in the belief system. And I also have to go back into my family wounds about as to why I would believe that. Now, once you're through revelation, you will always experience salvation. And salvation is that personal freedom. You get to your emotional freedom. You get freed up from the burden of your behavior. Now, I don't care if it lasts for a nanosecond. Just experiencing that freedom will enable you to do what you need to do to experience it again. It's like the anecdote to that reward. Remember, they said that addiction is about getting to this reward. When you experience salvation, that freedom, it X's out, it that reward is like, no, this is now the reward. This is what I want. So again, I don't care if it lasts for a nanosecond. I don't care for how long it lasts. You're in that state of really feeling freed up from your addiction. You will work to have that be lasting for your life. So, like I said, I'm just laying that out to let you know that there is a way, there is a process. For me, it's a lifelong process. Most of the people I know that wisdom walk, they understand that. It's a lifelong process, but it's so worth doing. And you repeat it over and over and over again. When you see that you're off center, you're off balance, you're like, meditation, get myself still, go in, set an intention, contemplation, ask those hard questions, affirmation, make a faith gesture. It's not an intellectual exercise. I got to make a faith gesture to my God, to my universe, to say, I am willing to get to salvation. You'll get your revelation that's going to help you be able to focus, and then you will definitely have your salvation experience. Now, the personal challenge for this week, I would like you, rather than feeling like you've got to identify your addiction or take on your addiction on your own, I think it's about really kind of preparing yourself for that. For some of you, you may have an addictive behavior that you're not even aware of at this point. Okay. So this is more about, let's just open up to a higher consciousness about, you know, if I have one, would I be willing to address it? Okay. If you do have one and you're clear about that, I think this will just help you to really get even more committed to doing the work. So the first challenge is, how would learning the root cause of your addictive behavior impact your life? Yeah, because we need to think about what's going to change. If I change up my story, what around me is going to change? Will I have the same friends? Will I live in the same environment? Will I be doing the same job? You have to really think about that, because otherwise the fear of all that change could really keep you from doing the work. Second, what types of support are you willing to receive to get to your emotional freedom? And that's really important. Are you ready to step into some therapy? Are you ready to step into some life coaching or some financial debt management like I did? What is it you're willing to do? 3, what would emotional freedom enable you to accomplish in life? Yeah, now this is the dream. Like, if I wasn't, in this imbalanced state, what would I be doing? And then last but not least, are you willing to make a lifelong commitment to your emotional freedom? And like I said, I will post that in the box below this video once I'm done. And I also will put it on my Facebook page, Wisdom Walk Radio. So I have come to the end of this broadcast. And as always, want to do a shout out to my wonderful engineer. I was very surprised and grateful tonight to actually be hosted by the president of Black Hole Be Well Radio, and that is Mr. Forrest. Brother Forrest, and I'm Forrest Parker, and I'm so grateful to have gotten a chance to speak to him and know that he is doing very well and that things are moving. The universe has things moving. So Thank you, Brother Forrest, for you and the entire Black Hole Be Well family for making sure that I get to do my spiritual spill every week. To all my regular listeners, to Dr. Sarah Sherman Drapkin, PhD, who teaches me what longevity is truly about, because you have no idea, folks. You have no idea. I should do a book on that. Yeah, there should be a book. To all those who have wisdom walk with me and you know who you are, to my family, my spiritual kin, my transformational leadership colleagues, my medicine brothers and sisters around the world, including Andrea Ford and Magella Green, and to those listening in for the first time, thank you, thank you, thank you. I couldn't do this without your listenership and support. Next week, I will be spilling about changing up your story by focusing on from controlling to flowing. Yeah, really fun stuff. Again, my Facebook page is Wisdom Walk Radio. My YouTube channel is Wisdom Walk to Self Mastery. And last but not least, I would like to thank my God, my ancestors, my spirit guides, my loving entities, everything that walks with me, keeps my head to the sky, my feet to the ground, and my heart open to do this important and wonderful work with all of you. Have a fabulous, flexible nature week in this nature month. And most importantly, please remember, you are not disposable. You are divine. Good night now.